Hi, this is Suna, bridging the worlds of academics and linear scientific black and white thinking into the quantum and spirituality. I am going to speak about psychology and spirituality in this video, specifically with object relations, which is a theory or a practice in psychology that also can be translated into understanding some of the spiritual concepts. So object relations is basically the idea that each relationship we have is really coming from within, in our own mind, how we see and perceive that relationship. I'll give you a little example. I used to teach preschool children, and when they ran into me in the grocery store, they were freaked out because I belonged in the preschool. Their object relationship of who I was their teacher in the preschool setting, and seeing me in a grocery store didn't match that setting. So we have these type of object relationships with one another. We see people in a certain way. Oh, this is a spiritual channel, or this one is a professor with knowledge. This person is in the role of a wife or in the role of a daughter, and we have a lot of ideas around what that role is and that person is. We also have an aspect of object relations in when we categorize people as perhaps male and female, and how we relate to what a man is or what a woman is, or what a child is. We see people through many filters of our preconceptions or our concepts that we have. Then we also can look at our personal relationships. You know the names of the people that you engage with a lot. They can be family members, co-workers, friends, and you have a certain type of internalized understanding or acceptance of what that relationship is. Now, if you can become objective and kind of step back, and instead of thinking that you know this person, look at what you've experienced of this person as your knowledge, and give an opening to that this person may be much more than what your knowledge of that person is. For example, you don't know the thoughts in their heads, their dreams, when they're sleeping at night. There's a lot that you don't know of that person, and this is something that happens when we get into relationships, especially romantic relationships. When you first meet a person, you are filled with ideas of who this magnificent and wonderful person is, and how fulfilling they are in your life, and how the future could be and such. And really, you only have that experience with the person that you have, which may be maybe a date, a few dates, or sum it up in 5 or 6 hours of interactions. That's the aspect you know of that person, even though they may have lived 30 years of life. So when you then have more interaction with that person, you have more experience of knowing that person. But going back to that beginning, that's your object relationship of you have with that person. It, in actuality, is probably about less than 10% of who that person is. I mean, think about it. 6 hours compared to 30 years. You might say 0.001% of that person. And then the rest is your imagination, your fantasy from what you've known in the past, or what your desire in your heart is. And it's more in your mind. And that which is in your mind is your object relation. Both the aspect that you experience with that person and that which you've added to that person. The potential of being a great father to your children, the potential of being a travel companion, all those things. That's your object relation. That is happening within you. And then even those pieces of, okay, this person is rejecting me. This person has the potential to reject me, not like me, not accept me. Those are also pieces of your object relation, where you are, in your mind, coming up with who this person is and what this person can do, and projecting it outward, and oftentimes living by it. Unless you can kind of catch it and become like a child and say, this was an interesting thought. Now let me just be open and vulnerable and see what actually happens and occurs. So the object relationship is about, inside of your mind, what a person is and what the relationship is. Now I'm going to go even deeper. You have this object relation aspect of yourself, or perspective on who you are yourself. We work very hard since childhood, to think of who we will be, such as a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a businessman, a mom, a friend, and then the qualities we add to it, someone who is loyal, or who is truthful, or who is smart, or all these qualities that we add to it. And we kind of create our plastic doll identity, concept of who we are, our object relations. If we can loosen that up a little bit and be more present in the now and realize that we shift and we change. You're not the 5-year-old that you were anymore, with that whole experience of how tall you were and how active you were, and what you thought, what you saw, your relationships with your parents, your friends. You are a new being now in who you are at this time. And all those experiences from childhood and teenagehood and early adulthood and whenever are memories that may have added aspects to who you are. Yet also there was some core you throughout the whole of that being. And that core you is the one that is present in the now, in what I'm experiencing now, what I'm seeing, I'm feeling, I'm thinking, I'm hearing. That's all part of the now, which is very fluid. And it almost goes against the concept of object relations, because object relations are almost these stationary little dolls or puppets, or that figures that you have of who everybody is around you and who you are yourself. Now, I'm going to introduce this concept of the area that we go into in spirituality, of masters, ascended masters, the Buddha, Yeshua, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, many of these, Lao Tzu, and people who have both lived on earth that we know of, and we know their lives, and mystical figures as well. And gee, we don't know what is what. But looking now at an object relations perspective on these ascended masters, just like the relationships that you have with the people around you in your life now, inside of you, you create a schema or an image or a doll, I'm going to say, of what that person is and what they are in relationship to you. So we do the same with the Ascended Masters. They are living within us in our relationship and perspective with them. So you wonder, now how do channels channel? Well, they're actually having a dialogue with their object relationship with an Ascended Master. It is a living relationship within, just as your relationship with your mother is a living relationship within. Relationship with your friends is a living relationship within. Your relationship with your dog is a relationship within. Yes, there are interactions with those beings, but the actual relationship is something that you've constructed within. You can test this out by creating a scenario and imagining that the interaction with this person is a little different than it's been in the past. Now, I've had an experience with that through a dream, having an argument with my father as a teen, and in a dream, really having a conversation with my father, coming to an understanding, and the feeling and the way the relationship shifted after that conversation in my dream, which was, of course, not a real face-to-face conversation with him. That feeling created this shift so that when I had my next conversation with my father, it was as if that shift, that dream was real. So this is something that you can practice. Maybe we'll go into this more deeply in a practice in another video, where you can make shifts in the relationship by shifting the object relationship within, by perhaps having a different type of conversation than you're used to having a different type of interaction than you're used to having, perhaps engaging more silence and active listening, such as, I hear this is what you're saying, and repeat what they're saying, instead of arguing your piece. So this object relationship concept is very useful to work with. So now I'm bridging back to the Ascended Masters. Many people really trust Jesus, bring Jesus into their life. Yeshua, you may call him as well. And think, what would Jesus do in this situation? And act that way. So they have a very healthy object relationship with Jesus within, that helps them with their relationships with others as well, and with situations in their life. So this was a bridging of psychology and spirituality. And in reality, if we really, really understand life, we'll see there are no separations really. But we do take different perspectives in order to help us enjoy life more, experiencing the love, the ease, the joy of life. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will come to you again with more binding psychology and spirituality.